Hello and welcome to the Sweaty, the Farmer and the Game Design, where we have all the gaming space crazy content packed like sardines in this podcast. My god. This is episode number 91, Space Density Dance. I am the London Gamer as the Sweaty.
And I am Lucho the Farmer. Thanks for joining us on this episode. This week we skip all the troll and go straight into the endgame of this pod.
Really? Are we just going to the end game?
We're skipping all the cutscenes.
Alright, so today on the deep dive we have entry barrier in MMOs. Is it too much? Is it too little? Is it too dense? Can you cut it with a knife? Or you need like a excavator to go through it? So, first, before we talk about the density of our souls and our lives and everything else, a disclaimer! This discussion here is based on our own opinions and our own in-game experiences. Everything that we say here or do or we express in this podcast can be heavily criticized and discussed, and you can say that we are lying to you.
We lie.
Or you don't like one of our opinions or something like that. So there you go.
Let us know.
Let us know down in the comments if you're in YouTube. Otherwise, just write us a strong email, I guess. Or put it into our any of our social medias. All right, and now that you are paying attention to me, hopefully you're paying attention.
What?
Don't forget to subscribe, click the notification bell, leave us a like or a comment, or do anything social the platform lets you. This is the best way that you can give us support for the show. You see, even Lucho's bored by the promo.
I'm not bored. It is very late and I'm very tired right now.
It's not an excuse. So, are you ready to exercise that big brain of yours before you go to sleep, I guess?
I'm ready to rumble.
Alright, so let's go with the deep dive. The deep dive. So, what is the context here, Luch? Where do you bring this to the table? What do you want me to do with this information cake?
So I came across this article thing. So the author, it's a very short article. It's like 5 minutes to read, but the whole point is that this person who's, I think he implies that he's like a game reviewer or something around those lines, doesn't seem to be able to get into Final Fantasy XIV.
Alright.
And the reason why is because he or she or they don't have the time to
play the game.
Just do all the questing required to get into the meatier parts of the game.
Yes.
And you're saying, it's basically he has to play many games, or they have to play many games.
Yes.
At once as part of their job.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And it seems that this person kind of wants to get into 14.
Yeah.
But their complaint is that they cannot do it because there's just too much content in 14.
Too much content.
So I was thinking, okay, is this? So because I was thinking them back to when just started playing WoW.
Yeah.
And WoW has the same kind of problem of there is just too much.
It's too much.
And we've been playing shorter last couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's another game that has a lot of story. stuff to go through before we even care about getting into a daily grind of the MMO.
Yeah.
And we have come across this many times.
This problem,
in our experience. So I wanted to talk about it.
All right, let's talk about it. So as I saw your questions, I think the key here is that it's a problem of barrier of entry.
Because it's as I see this, it's like imagine that you are a player approaching an MMO, and let's say, for example, that you don't have many or you don't have much experience with MMOs in general. Like, because now you and me, if we get to a new MMO, we kind of expect, we know what to expect more or less.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for older MMOs, 14, WoW, SWATer, Guild Wars.
Yeah.
We know that they have a lot of backlog. Like, the backlog of content is huge.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
But imagine that you're a new-ish player to the genre. Yeah. And then you hit your face against this wall of, wow, I have literally hundreds of hours of story to go through before you can actually see what the MMO daily life is.
Yeah.
Because that's true for all MMOs. One thing is playing through a story.
Yes.
Another thing is that actual daily grinding.
Yeah, what to do,
what
like
an MMO
dungeons
is.
And things.
Even for story-driven games like 14 and the Old Republic.
Yeah, correct.
They like, one, you clear the story, you enjoy the story. They're amazing games.
Yeah,
but that's not how a daily grind for gear and raids and stuff like that looks like.
Yes. So it's all an illusion till you get there.
Yes, it's not necessarily an illusion, but it's definitely not. It's just that's just how a path looks like, but it's definitely not. Like, if you stick long time with an MMO, that's not what the MMO life looks.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's, I think it's a. So if you're newish to this genre, it's definitely intimidating to see the prospect of how much time and effort do you have to sink in even before you start the actual grind of the game.
Yes. Correct. So
that's why I put it in those terms.
Cool. All right. So, but again, I think it's still a problem of barrier of entry.
No.
Still absolutely a problem, barrier of entry. I will say something like, before we go through this like thing about barriers of entry and anything, like I will say that MMOs have, I don't know, like MMOs have this problem always because of the concept of the genre of the game, when they are think as expensive and very cramming with content games.
I mean, MMOs are the original live service.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, exactly.
They are the ones that gave birth to the whole live service thing, where you just keep adding more content to this ever-growing world of stuff to do, and just seeing infinite amount of times into it.
Yeah, but this not only happens in MMO, it happens too in car games, and even like video games as a thing has a certain level of barrier of entry that we were going to discuss here.
Sure.
Right? But MMOs particularly suffer this in a more heightened manner. More so now, and I totally get what this dude was talking about. Like, yes, I like MMOs, I like what they offer, I like the experience and everything else, but yeah, sometimes I just like want to play like a bunch of other games, and they demand time, and MMOs like demand even more of that time.
I mean, MMOs for sure. They, how do I say that? They for sure lean harder into this idea that MMOs are more a hobby on itself than just a pastime.
Yeah.
So when you like being active part of an MMO community, it's almost a hobby that will take a lot of your free time.
Yeah. Correct.
So it's very hard to get into many at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely impossible at this point. I will argue that. By experiencing this time, I'm choosing and picking exactly where I'm gonna play and when.
Yes, it's
yeah.
And the deeper that you get into a specific MMO, the more consuming it is. Even though the less things you have to do.
Correct. Yes.
It's this weird thing. For example, I'm very into work.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have a lot of things to do in the game.
Yes.
Like things to do, grinds to do.
Yeah.
At this point, there is not much, but just the deeper that I get into challenging myself more in the game, the more time I end up spending in the game to do that more.
Yes.
So it's just like this rolling ball of.
Yeah. My God. Yes.
It's more and more and more. But if you really think about it, there are not that many dailies or weeklies or stuff that I have to do. That
correct.
This to-do list is not large. I can pretty much ignore all of it. It's just by my involvement and by like my own goals in the game, I just put more and more time into it, and I have less and less time to play other games. Yep.
And that is exactly the thing, the eternal fight, because MMOs demand so much time from you, because that's the original idea design, that it will be your main hobby, your main thing. So I understand this guy as a reviewer saying like, oh my God, too much. Oh, no, I would love to get into this, but I don't have the time. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as like if you take Warhammer 40k as a hobby, you probably won't have the time to do much more than play Warhammer 40k as a hobby.
No, I do see his point. That's why I think it's an interesting discussion, because it happens to me also. Like, I want to play other games. I want to try other MMOs.
Yeah.
I don't have the time, because the little free time that I have, I'd rather put in the one that I'm already invested.
Yeah.
Which is something that MMOs bank a lot of their money into, that players will get trapped in this infinite grinding cycle.
Yeah, even for me now that I'm like more like that, my main job is almost doing content creation, and now that I'm ramping up a lot of like initiative and content creation, I'm seeing myself with less and less time to actually play games. Yeah,
you have to really pick.
Yeah, so now I'm programming myself. All right, I'm gonna have this time. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this and this. Yeah.
Like this is a problem that we've been facing.
Yeah.
Together, because you step away from World of Warcraft.
Correct. Yeah.
And you've been playing Destiny 2 with some of our friends a lot more. Yeah. And you ask me, when are we gonna play something more together? And like, I don't know. I have a job, and my free time, I just get into WoW.
Yeah. Fortunately, we kind of plan around it. We are organized people with our time, fortunately.
Yeah, but even with that, it's not like.
Yeah, it's not like oh yeah, whatever. It's not like an easy decision to do. Yeah, we have to actually coordinate what are we gonna play, and
yeah, we have to think about it.
Yeah.
we have to make an effort.
Yeah, so I cannot imagine as a reviewer, as your job is to play as many games as possible. Yes. MMOs are like insane
and like,
thing to try to tackle.
Point where you can, or I would hope, play them to a point where you can make an informed, or somehow well-informed piece of media.
Correct.
Article, video, whatever piece of content you produce.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. That's
it's very hard for MMOs. Like
that's one of the reasons why we take so long with our reviews when we do them, because
we try to put time into a game.
Because we try to put a lot of time to the game before we read this. But as a demand of you being a game reviewer on the internet, and you have to check every single game and do things, and you cannot imagine. MMOs are a nightmare.
it's a very hard, because like if it is an adventure game, you can play like half of the game and like get a good feeling of how the game is and what it plays.
Yeah.
You may not finish the whole thing, and you may not see the reveals at the end. Stuff like that.
Correct.
But the game is not gonna fundamentally change.
Yeah.
Well, if you just jump into an MMO, your first 100 or dozens of hours are gonna be completely unrelated to
what
people spend, to what people in the community talk about, for example. Because like no one talks about much to refer out like the leveling experience in World of Warcraft. It's kind of a thing that you have to.
Correct. So
and for as much praise as 14 gets, like what everyone says is you enjoy the story, take it slow.
It's still a deep and dense MMO, and like I remember very distinctly.
But even with that, like when people, like what people talk about in their own communities, it's not about how the leveling experience is. That's like if you get into a guild or a free company or whatever equivalent is in 14, you get into Discord, they're talking about like running the dungeons and doing the trials and doing the raids. Not about the leveling experience.
Not about the story of the
which is amazing.
Which is amazing.
No one is denying that. It's not what the daily life of the community is.
Exactly. Very interesting, because and to the point, like I distinctly remember when I was playing 14, and I was like advancing through story, and then a side system piqued my interest, and then I spent like 4 or 5 sessions exploring that side system that piqued my interest. I think it was like a profession and the material system. You mentioned that you're very interested in one of the crafting. Yes, in one of the crafting.
Jobs.
And that I lost a lot of time there. And Lucho just like passed me through progression and told me like, what are you doing? That doesn't matter till you get to X point. So I lost a lot of time there. Just being distracted of the density of content of the actual game. And so there you go. That happens all the time. That's what we're getting. So, with the context of this discussion put into clear focus, what are the most common barriers of entries in video games in general is the question asked here by my friend.
It's kind of the most general place to start.
The first is the barrier of video game literacy. Yes?
Yes, sure. I see what you mean.
That's the first barrier that anybody that wants to get into video games have to break through. What is exactly video game literacy? Is how to control a game properly and how to have the idea of what to expect into getting into a game.
I think more than how to control it is
it has a lot of different aspects beyond more than how to control, of course.
But it's just this very broad, like just how games communicate with play. Like it's this shared language that we build, or how do we communicate in general with games.
Yeah, how do we interact?
More than just the specific like control schemes that. Yeah. It's not about the specifics. It's about like this shared language of how do we interact.
Yeah, only like in terms of controllers, in terms of how to read interfaces properly, where to look for certain things that the games assume that you know because you play video games, but in reality, if you're not gamer, you have no idea.
and you don't have to, because it is a language, like it is a language that is just shared for games.
Correct.
Just a specific type of communication that happens.
Correct.
Between you and the people developing the game is this.
And I've seen the most like clear point of this. The most clear example of this is that if you sit down a person who never played a game into a computer game, they cannot even do the most simple thing that we gamers with our literacy are about, is how to close the game.
Yeah.
There we go. People doesn't know that if you're in a PC game, you should press the escape keyboard, and that probably could give you the option to close the game. Or if you're in a console, you will play the start button or select button, one of the two, to actually close the game. And even in the most advanced consoles, you can suspend the game, and then it has another keyboard, which is, for example, here in the P. If you're watching us on YouTube, here I'm holding a PS4 controller, and then you suspend the game not by pressing the start or select buttons, but you press like a giant like middle button there for content, and that opens the menu back in the console. You see the problem here?
There's something more telling. Like if you sit, like if you sit in front of a game, you'll naturally put your hands on the walls.
Yes.
And the mouse.
Yes.
You can see someone who is not very familiar with games. They won't do that, but you will naturally do it. Like for any game, like just for any new game, you will naturally put your hands in that position
and press those buttons at the beginning. In space.
And it may not be like those may not be the way to control the game.
Correct.
You'll figure out eventually.
Correct.
But like you'll go instinctively to.
Correct. So that's the first barrier to entry to any game. The game literacy, how to properly read and communicate with the game in that point, right? Other barriers of entry to games are how to understand mechanics of games. How the mechanics properly work. Once you know how to read the game, the next barrier of entry is how complex the game is, right? If you have a ton of abilities, if you have a ton of interacting things, if you have abilities that interact with other abilities, if you are a weird control laid out, or if you need to press more buttons or less buttons, or if you need to be able to trigger stuff or not to trigger stuff, etc., etc. So the complexity inside the mechanics of the game. The more complex the mechanics, the harder to get into the game is.
Definitely.
Right? That's the second barrier of entry in video games. Right? And the third barrier of entry, which is the less common now, more common before, was readability of the game. Where the game is not clear or not good enough to show you what is important, what is not important, how to control, how to do X or Y.
That's still a problem for some games.
It's less common now, but it's still a problem.
I don't know if it is less common. We are used to it, but
I will argue that it's less common now. That we become better at showing. I can make our games more readable in general. Like the UI objectives are being more clear. Fight points that point you to where you're supposed to go are become a little bit more clear.
Don't know if I agree with that.
All right, why not? Tell me about it.
Do you remember a couple? I think it was when Assassin's Creed Origins came out.
Yeah.
People complained that it was very hard to navigate with the quest markers on the top, like compass thingy.
Wow, I don't remember. Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah.
And that was a big complaint, that it's not because it was buggy, but it was never very clear where your next big objective was.
All right, yeah.
And it was not that the game was not showing you information.
It was that it wasn't showing it to you correctly.
clearly enough.
Yeah. Fair enough. So
and that's a very recent example.
Yeah. So those are the three main barriers of entry for games in general, right? So
sure, yeah, that's
game literacy, how you communicate with the game and how to interact with it. Game mechanics, how complex or difficult to understand the mechanics are. And readability of the game, how easy to understand the actual game once you know how to read it.
Just face roll your controller and something will happen.
Yeah. Face roll your keyboard. Things will happen for sure. But those are the main barriers of entry. And those are the things that when you are designing any kind of game, you think about it. How easy is to explain this game so anyone can pick it up and play with it? How easy is to understand the rules? And how complex the interactions inside the game are. For
sure.
And the three pillars, at least for me as a designer, as a game designer, what I've studied, are the three pillars of how to properly design an interactive experience in general. And those are the biggest barriers of entry. And we have like an exercise about a lot of different big games trying to fight against these barriers of entry. One of the biggest ones was back in the day when we were starting to develop design theory about gaming. Was Magic, right? Magic the Gathering was originally designed to be very easy to pick up because it was originally designed to be played between games of Dungeons and Dragons. That's what the original design of Magic the Gathering. And so the interactions with the deck and that sort of were super simple. You just put the deck here, you cast your abilities with X and Y. The mechanics were super simple and the readability was super simple because what the card read is what the card said. What you read in the card is what the card does. But with time, as they begin to expand the game, they start to have weirder, like reading down cards and more interactions in just the mechanics, the way that you pick up the game and play it, and more interactions inside the mechanics and interaction between cards and layers and faces and blah blah. And Magic had a huge problem of accessibility because of this, because it was too complex of a game and these barriers of entry were too high. Nobody was picking up the game. And then they decided, like, it's super interesting because it's like the story of actually designing a game that you can apply to other games. They decided to change their philosophy on the game and try and actively start to lower those barriers of entry, making readability easy, streamlining mechanics, getting rid of unnecessary rules, containing the interaction between cards, etc., etc., to the point that the game becomes more accessible, things are more clean and clear, and yeah, you lower that barrier and the game becomes more popular. And there you go. Easy if you put it on paper and read it, but very difficult from the design aspect to see that. So those are the main barriers of entry. I don't think I'm missing anything. Lucho, what do you think?
No, that sounds... That seems to cover the basics.
Yeah, so that's the basics barriers of entry in games in general. So, on top of that, what are the most common barriers of entry of MMOs in particular? So, yeah, I think the MMOs particularly tend to exacerbate the mechanic complexity in some shapes because of the nature of expansions. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's one of the barriers of entry for MMOs that suffers the most. A lot of content interacting between itself, and yeah, and a lot of baggages and all mechanics that are interacting in weird ways and that sort of stuff. Some of the MMOs suffer from that and becomes like too complex to get into. Like you've seen in
do you want to elaborate on that idea?
So the clearest example is the quantity of abilities that you could put in ability bars.
Okay.
That's the easiest example to do.
True.
Right? When an MMO launches, you probably can fill max 2 bars of abilities that you can use.
Okay, but you won't see, like, to be fair, in most cases, you won't see that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because most MMOs try to ease you into this wall of keys that you have to press.
Of course. But it still happens.
Still think that...
Still happens. It still is a complex. Like, learning rotations is a complex thing to get through. As a new MMO fresh player.
Sure, but you don't have to learn the rotations to get into a game. I feel like that's something that comes when, like, after you made the decision that you wanna invest the time.
All right, fair enough. But it's still like that complexity exists.
It does exist, but I don't think. I'm not sure, or I don't completely share your point that it's part of the barrier of entry, because at least in my experience, with the MMOs that I have played so far, I can ignore the rotation, like throughout the leveling process and questing and doing like world content. I can ignore like getting good at my class.
All right. I
can just press read the tooltip for the abilities and say, okay, this kind of does this. I'll press it and I would have thinking too much.
Yeah.
Like thinking about like optimizing and just the thing that comes after. No, just kind of face rolling.
Yeah. But
my fingers.
Yeah, part of the exercise that I'm thinking about here is like a new player that I haven't played many video games trying to get into the MMOs. And it's for the new player, it's absolutely overwhelming. Having, even with the slow pace that MMOs does now to give you like all the abilities and the interactions and that sort of stuff while you're playing the game.
True. I still feel like most MMOs do a fairly good job at easing you through.
Yes, you're right. They become better at easing you through it, but it still exists that overwhelming feeling that you have to get through the first time, or like having all these things to do and not knowing exactly if I'm pressing the right buttons or not, or if I should press all the buttons or not, or I should not press all the buttons. Or is it correct that I'm just pressing one button? It's still like an overwhelming feeling that the gamer has to get through it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I
still don't know.
You still don't know. He doesn't
because
know.
It really doesn't matter. Like if we're being honest, you can ignore all of this. You can just press 1 or 2 keys and you'll go fine through most stories.
Yeah.
And questing is pretty much just fetch quests and killing rats around.
I'm not saying that it's not possible to do that, but you still have to get through that hurdle.
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
I'm just agreeing with you for the sake of moving on.
Okay, for the sake of moving on, MMOs suffer in different points of like raising those basic barriers of entry. Have weird control schemes, too many weird interfaces, difficult to read, tooltips that doesn't give you enough information, etc., etc. But beyond that, we're trying to check if they have unique proprieties that makes them even harder to get beyond their raising the basic game design barriers of entry. One is the unique. I will say that I don't have exactly a clear picture of the unique ones, but I have suspicions of clear ones, because for me, the clearest ones are the basic ones when they raise them too much, and then you are confused with the game. But in the sake for the
elaborate, because I didn't know what you mean.
Yeah, what you don't mean about what?
You have to elaborate that idea.
Which idea?
The one that you just gave, that they raise the.
Yeah, they raise the basic. That's what
elaborate.
I just said. Yeah, they just or become too difficult to read, or have weird control schemes, or have too many, or have too much or too little information in the tooltips, so you don't understand quite the games. All of the MMOs have some sort of variety of these problems.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that they raise these natural barriers of entry of the games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something that is specific for MMOs? Because you're just saying that, yeah, it's the same things that we mentioned before, but just
no, because
worse.
Because the variety of MMOs that we have right now, they're not all raised the same type of.
Okay, elaborate that idea.
All right. So, for example, Elder Scrolls Online has a very easy to understand tooltip and ability interaction barrier of entry, right?
Okay.
But it's very difficult to read the interactions between the abilities and the interactions with your items and what you can do in the crafting, right?
Okay.
That is one. And compared with Warcraft, which has a lot of abilities and has more difficulty into the... It raises the bar into the complexity of how many things you have to understand and the rotation things, but it's very easy to understand crafting and items in terms of tooltips, right? So they all have different bars that go up, that get up and down. That's what I mean.
Sure. Okay.
That's what I mean. All right. So we're gonna. I'm beyond that. I'm trying to see if there is any particular other barriers of entry between that shares between all these type of MMOs.
Okay.
Right. That's what the exercise I was trying to do. And one that is kind of closer to one is the density of the stories that they're saying because of the legacy of the content.
Okay, yes.
Right? That you have so much a story to go through that it can be a hassle to go through it. Right? It's too many demanding of time, and time is a thing that it can be a barrier of entry. If something is demanding you too much time and you don't have the time or the willing to get to it, it will stop you from playing the thing.
Yeah, if you don't have a clear, or if the goal is not laid clearly,
correct,
in front of you, it can be very
the
fuck is going on.
Elder Scrolls Online suffers from this, Guild Wars 2 suffers from this, Final Fantasy 14 suffers from this.
Pretty much all of them.
The majority of them suffers from have all this like long ass story when you have to like invest hours and hours to go through what really the game is.
Yes.
Right? And the other one, when I was thinking beyond the story baggages and the churn through the story and the amount of time that you have to inject into this game, which becomes a barrier of entry. So just time invested. We can call it that, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, sure. I see what you mean.
To simplify, we can call it like barrier of entry of time invested into the game. You need a lot of time to invest.
Yeah, to get the game asked for you to put on a lot of time.
Yeah. And the other one that I was thinking about for MMOs in particular was the understanding of the unique etiquette inside the games.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that it's difficult to express because it's super niche to MMOs.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. So it's like in MMOs when you have, for example, like in MMOs when you have like Trinity like systems, and by Trinity like systems I mean tank, healer, and DPS, right?
Roles, you mean?
Roles, yeah. Trinity like role system. There you go. So you, as a normal player that never has this, you just simply go and like you get into an activity with this kind of Trinity system, and then you just go and attack a mob randomly and go and have fun, quote unquote. When the etiquette tells you that the tank should be the one who goes and attack mobs and you should wait for him because that could cause problems into the progression of the games, and the design of these activities is think with this in mind. The tank has his role of like getting the abilities that getting the aggro from the mobs and where the group goes and where it doesn't go, etc., right? That kind of etiquettes are difficult to understand and represent a barrier of entry for gamers in specifically the MMO particular.
Sure.
Yeah, and all that, everything else that's on surround them, like for certain activities you have to wait for X things, in certain chats you have to talk with certain manner, and on top of that you have unique languages inside the game. So the community tends to develop their own language particular from the MMO, and it happens in the majority of the MMOs.
It happens in all of them, but to be fair, that happens in all games.
That happens in all games, but it's more relevant in MMOs because you need to interact with other people all the time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're interacting with like actual people.
Yeah, because the MMO thing. So that becomes more important because it makes part of the way that you communicate with other players. Like if the other player is telling you like MPV versus blah 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 MCDE, and you're like, what? You just assume that you understand. He just
that will happen a lot.
Yeah, that he just absolutely assume, and he goes like, what are you doing if I tell you already that CP goes with versus IP? And like, sure. Right?
Yes, but that is specific thing of developing its own language.
Yeah.
There's nothing the developer can do, for example.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Yeah.
Because that's just something that arises from the community for ease of communication.
Absolutely. You can try to, like, as a developer, you can technically try to put your own expressions inside the game in some way, shape, or form, and like try to explain them. Like CP is this thing and blah blah blah, as some games does, but at the end of the day, the community tend to like even at that point, if you're as a developer, try to do something like that to be more clear. The community will. I agree with you. It's kind of like outside of the control of the developer. In part.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, those are the two extra barriers of entry that I feel that are more common beyond all the MMOs. Right? The amount of time demanded and the unique language and etiquette that it develops inside of it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's. I would agree with you.
Yeah. Is there any other that you could think about it that I'm not seeing?
That it's uniquely present in MMOs.
Yeah, through the majority of MMOs.
I mean, there is one very clear thing, and is that MMOs are designed, like by design, are geared toward group activity.
Ah, you mean the social? I thought that fit inside the etiquette thingy.
No, because the etiquette is just to communicate.
All right.
But it's just
so
more
you mean
than
that one barrier of entry is just the necessity of interaction with other players?
Yes.
You suppose that is a barrier of entry, an extra barrier of entry on MMOs? Beyond it.
It definitely is, because you don't want to interact with people all the time. Not all the people want to interact with people when they're playing games.
Yeah, you're right. Yes. I agree with you. Yeah.
And MMOs do require you to talk to people and to look out for people to do content with, because
all right, I thought
no matter how solo player friendly an MMO is,
yeah,
it is
at some
by
point
definition and by design they are geared towards group play. Like I
thought about it, but I think that fit into the etiquette, because now the majority of the MMOs doesn't force on you to do that. The majority has like matchmaking and that sort of stuff, and the only thing that you need to go through that is
matchmaking is not a solution for that. Matchmaking is matchmaking it's makes it worse, because it's the game telling you need people to play it. Like matchmaking is telling the player you cannot do this alone. You need people. There is no workaround.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not it's not making it more solo player friendly. It's making it. Is the message that is delivering is you have to do this with people.
Yes, but that, as you said, like that helps for the solo player, because it's not forcing you to actually interact with people to get a group together. It is
forcing you to interact with people.
No, because the machine is giving you a group, right? And if you already know
No. But that group is made out of people.
But if you already understand the etiquette of the game, you don't even have to communicate with the random people that it has. You can see them as bots. But
they won't. Like they won't behave like bots.
Of course not. But you can see them, like, you know what I mean? Like they're not forcing you to interact directly with the
They are forcing. They are putting. What do you mean? They are putting you in a group with random people that you don't know. The
fact of existing in a group of random people doesn't mean that you're interacting with the group of random people. You can be sitting in a bus, going to a place with a group of random people. That doesn't mean that you're interacting with those people.
You're looking at them. You're coexisting in the same space.
Yeah, again, the fact that you go into a plane with a group of random people doesn't mean that you're interacting with that group of random people.
It does.
It does not.
Why not?
Because you are not interacting. You cannot even determine that they exist. That doesn't count as interaction.
It does. Like. You cannot just strip down to your underwear.
What do you
mean? You cannot do whatever you want. Like the fact that you abide by social rules means that
because that covers etiquette. That's what I was talking about of the first of his thing. That doesn't mean interaction. It just mean follow the rules. You can follow the rules.
No. Following the rules is a way of interacting.
No.
I don't know. It is.
No, it's not.
Why not?
No, you're not interacting. Like the fact of interacting means that you get an answer and a response from the other person.
No, that's communication.
That's interaction. Interaction cannot exist without a result, an input and an output.
That's not, you're making that arbitrary, but like just the fact I by the rules, it means that you're interacting with
Absolutely not. I don't agree with that. Like, that's not how interaction works.
It is.
It is not.
What do you mean that is not?
It's not how interaction works. Interaction works fine, but that you do something with the other person respond in some shape, way, or form.
That's communication.
Yeah. Communication is interaction.
Yes. But interaction is but interaction is more than just communication.
Yes, but the fact that you're following the route doesn't mean that you're interacting with people. Again, the same example. You go into a bus, you sit down in a chair, and you're not interacting with anybody. You're not interacting with the person sitting.
You're not communicating with anybody, but you're like just the fact that you're following the rules to behave means that you are interacting with that group of people.
No.
Yes.
No.
like for example, the fact that.
All right. Lucho is dying a little bit.
Talk loudly on a phone.
Yes.
And you don't do it. Yes.
All right.
That is like you are interacting with those people.
You're not saying, interacting with anybody. You gotta actually look the definition of interaction.
But not doing the thing. Sure.
And you're cutting again for some reason.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, I know the internet is worse. Reciprocal action or influence. Ongoing interaction in two languages. Communications or direct involvement with something or someone. In physics, a particular way in which matter, fields, and atomic and subatomic particles affect one another. You see?
Okay. And?
You're not interacting with a person by just existing in the same space.
You are.
You are
can
not.
Smell those people.
You're not communicating. You're not directly involved with him. You're not influencing him in any shape, way, or form.
Yes, you are.
You are not. How? Again, if you sit in a bus and you're both sitting down, following the etiquette of existing in a bus, you're not interacting in any shape, way, or form with the other human being. What are you talking about?
It is interaction.
No! You are not influencing in anything on the other person by you existing.
Yes, you are.
You are not.
Cannot
How?
Sit in the same spot that you are on.
How?
You hear me?
What?
That person cannot sit in the same spot that you are.
So? That doesn't mean that you're influencing him in any way.
That's a form of influence.
No. Jesus Christ. No.
Like you cannot do whatever you want.
Of course not, because you're following an etiquette, as we established already.
Yeah, that's
etiquette is not a form. Following an etiquette is not a form of interaction between two persons.
I mean, not between two persons, but like between you and the community. Like interaction is not just completely restrained to you and another person.
But that's what you're saying that is happening. That because you exist with another person, you mean that you're forcing people to interact between the two. Right? And that's a barrier of entry. I say no, because that's the whole point of matchmaking. You can go through activity even believing that the other person is a bot or not. You don't care at the end of the day.
But you cannot do, for example, you cannot do whatever you want in that activity. You
can. You just run and try to hit a a mob or whatever, try to run through the dungeon. You can do whatever you want. You will fail the activity, but technically you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you will get kicked out and gone by the community.
But you can do whatever you want.
With that community,
you still can do whatever you want.
And you're getting a negative, and you will get a negative response.
Okay.
People will yell at you.
All right, that's different.
But that will happen. That's the whole point. Like, that's why following the rules, that's why following the etiquette results in an interaction. Like, you cannot do whatever you want and nothing will happen. Like, if there was no one around you. If you do whatever you want, it will have consequences, and that's interacting with society. Or am I wrong? Like,
all right, we have to move on from this because we have spent half an hour trying to define what the fuck interaction is. So I don't see it. All right, I think Lucho just died. All right, we may still have some technical problems, but let's try to move on. So let's include our interaction with people into the barriers of entry of MMOs. All right?
Sure. Just
to move on. so we have etiquette, internal etiquette, time spent, and interaction. All right?
Yep.
Cool. Now, many MMOs offer hundreds of hours in questing and exploration. When does this become a hindrance instead of a selling point? I think that answers itself by the fact that we put investment of time as a barrier of entry, but again, is the problem of like having too little content and too much content, and how to bypass that content to make it easy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so should you always have the option to just like bypass all the old quests and content and that sort of stuff and getting to the end of the game? Should that always be optional?
Maybe.
Yeah, because like in the majority of MMOs right now, it's absolutely not optional. Like, you have to go through all the story of 14. You have to go through all the story of Guild Wars. You have to go through all the story of online. Of Elder Scrolls Online. You have to go through all the story of SOTOR. With Warcraft, you don't, right?
With Warcraft, you don't. Yeah. You can choose which parts you want to skip. You can skip everything if you want, though.
Yeah, actually. There you go. So should that always be the option?
I think it should, but it shouldn't be an option. It's just the problem that it shouldn't be an option when it would solve the problem, because it shouldn't be an option for a new player.
So it shouldn't be an option for a new player, but then that barrier of entry will exist always.
It will always exist, but the problem is that what I feel they should do is it's get rid of all the padding in the MMO questing experience.
So just like streamline?
Probably, because if you think out, most MMO questing is full of fetch quests and go kill 5 rats and grab 3 pieces of thing on the floor.
Yeah, correct, yes.
That's kind of useless for the story that they want to tell.
Yes. Unless those 3 pieces of bread are super relevant for, I don't know, some reason.
Sure, but the 20 rats that you kill all the time. It's kind of sure.
You kill rats. You are important in the story now that you kill those rats in those basements.
It's an exaggeration of the trope, but it's still.
Yeah, I get it. So just try to, if your game gets to that point where it's too much, you should try to streamline all of that.
Also, you have to think about it, like questing in MMOs.
Yeah.
Exists not only for the sake of telling a story.
Correct.
It exists for the sake of leveling up players.
Correct. But that's
yeah. A lot of the times there's a lot of quests just for the sake of throwing experience at the players. So by the end of the story, they are max level. So that's like if you're gonna trim out the bunch of go chop down 5 trees and kill 3 rats.
Yeah.
You also have to work of reallocating experience so you're not losing that.
But that I think working that problem is easy. Like it's easier than revamping the flow of the story without the fluff that comes with it. Like I've seen it in Star Wars, The Old Republic. Supposedly, before some expansions and changes that they did, you didn't get to max level by just doing the main stories. But now, if you just do the main stories, you will get to max level by the end of them.
All MMOs have gone through this at some point. 14 also. 14 especially for Realm Reborn did it.
Yeah. Like
the original experience, you had to grind mobs because of the level gating for the main story quest.
Yeah, so I feel like the experience problem is not as difficult as making the story experience more flow more.
It's not as difficult, but it's something that needs to be taken into account.
Fair enough. But I agree 100% with you that they should remove all that padding and extra stories. Unless they are actually... There's sometimes that they don't remove it because they give you more context in the world, and that I understand. Right?
It does. And we have said it before that a lot of this quote-unquote side content is there to flavor the world.
To make it feel more alive and show you more.
The problem is that when you're dealing with quote-unquote legacy content, that's just too much. Like if it is, for example, for your newest expansion.
Yeah.
Sure, you need to flesh out the world where the story that you're telling right now matters.
All right, yeah.
So I get it. It should be there for that reason. But if we're talking about your original vanilla game or your first expansion, you'll lose some of the world building for sure.
Yeah.
You have to measure what matters more to you or in your game. Is it worth burning hundreds of hours of game time on all content for players to experience some of this world building against giving people more of the meatier parts of the actual story?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And it's a decision that you as the developer have to make. It's not. I don't think there is an answer.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's something that they have to check out and see how they all quests and all things are being flowing and how they can improve it and if they're bothering on your players and etc. But on that same topic, should all MMOs always offer a skip story option and just give you like skip story and show me like a cinematic with the resume to the story and then you put me in the last expansion and I'm good to go.
Probably not for new players.
You say no for new players?
No, definitely not.
So you prefer that in time invested barrier of entry to always exist for new players?
Yeah, because you still want the new player to build some attachment to the world. And
All right.
that happens through quests.
Okay. But you say that even so, we have to do that experience better.
Yes. Like
So it
the
doesn't
experience
feel
as
like
it
an
is.
insane amount of time investment. All right.
Yeah, like as it is, the experience is not perfect, but it
Yeah.
still serves a purpose for a new player.
Yeah. So you feel like the answer is not put a skip story button.
No, it would be like if you're playing your 4 character,
Yeah.
sure.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
If this is your first one, probably not, because
Yeah, I
you're
agree with you.
still like the game is still trying to sell you a world to live in.
Yeah.
And
But remember that we
experience.
always that's kind of a problem that have no solution right now, because we discussed this in some MMO review or something that we did, that financially backing up this kind of efforts of revamping legacy content is not very plausible right now.
Nope, it's it's a very hard sell.
Yeah. So we might always have this problem because of that reason.
I mean, that's a problem across any live service game.
Yeah. Any long
They
lived
don't
game.
live based on the release of new content and dangling in front of the player the shiny new thing.
Yeah. So the solution of they do when it's too much is they put a skip story option and they direct you to a movie make resume of the game.
That's probably the easier solution. I don't think it's the right one. I think they can spare.
I agree with you.
I think they can spare development time.
Yeah.
Once and not every expansion, like not every year, not for every patch, but like every 2 years, maybe it's worth revisiting some stuff. And
the problem is convincing your money people that of that.
It is.
Yeah,
but
that's the real problem.
But that's what you won't be able to do it for every financial cycle, you know?
Yeah. Are MMOs destined to be beyond the grasp of casual gamers? My God, this question, Lucho, my God.
I say yes.
Yes, he said yes. I said no necessarily. I think the answer, as everything in life, is how do you put... the answer is to this is no, but what you have to do that is kind of difficult and expensive, because what you have to do to put casual players like this kind of games in the grasp of casual players is lower all your barriers of entry. That's what you have to do in design terms. You just have to lower all your barriers of entry.
But even that is not enough.
You say that even with that is not a why.
Because you know what's the perfect example? Why not? Destiny 2. It's a game that it's very accessible.
Correct. Yes.
It's very easy to pick up.
Correct. Yes.
So it has in terms of what we have. You can play probably a whole story. You can play it alone.
Yeah.
And the game never forces you at all into group
content. In terms of we have discussed, they have lowered all the barriers of entry.
It's as low as it can get for an MMO-like.
Correct. Yes.
And let's say as it is, Destiny 2 is still like an MMO game, but it lives in that space.
Okay.
It's taking a lot of stuff from that space.
Yeah.
And even for a game as accessible as Destiny 2 and as popular as Destiny 2,
yeah,
it's like if you want to take part into a meaty part of the game, you need to invest a lot of time that casual quote-unquote gamers don't have to or are not willing to put into.
Yeah. But is it still accessible to casual players? Like in 90% of the game is accessible to casual players.
It's the most accessible.
Yeah.
And I still think is not. I
still
still think Destiny 2 is not a as friendly as it is.
Yeah.
Is not friendly for casual players.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Because the game still requires you to grind the stuff. The game still is asking you to do a bunch of dailies and weeklies and.
All right.
So just that the things that an MMO asks for players in the long run are never going to be accessible for casual players.
So you feel
you're not willing.
You feel that the barrier of entry of time investment is never going down. And that's the reason why casual player cannot get into it.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Even with an example as like Destiny 2 that has all the other barriers very low. It's
as low as it can get.
Yeah.
It's a very accessible game.
You're right. You're right.
It's very beginner friendly. It's very good looking. It's very modern. It doesn't have this. It's very intuitive. And like if you have played any other shooter,
you can pick it up.
It feels very intuitive.
Yeah, mechanics are easy to understand, etc., etc. Yeah, interactions are well described, and yeah.
But it still relies in all the MMO trappings of these daily, weekly power grind, which is at the core of it.
You say that it fails into the time investment barrier of entry, even for the Vex example that we have.
That's how I feel. Like I don't know if you shared that with Destiny, for example.
I don't know, because I haven't thought about Destiny in this category, to tell you to be honest. Like I didn't thought about Destiny in this category specifically. Man, all right. Okay, say time investment is the problem for casual players. Yep, I see it. I see what you mean. I see absolutely what you mean. It's not. I will argue that it's not.
Is that the worst offender? Sure.
Yes, it's like I will argue that it is the casual MMO-ish game by default or by preference, because of all the barriers have been lower. But even so, with the effort, it still maintains some of the time requirements.
Yeah.
Yes, your argument is right. But I will say that it's not as bad to the point that it's like detracting all the casual players out of the game.
Oh no, I
right?
I agree. Again, it's not the worst offender of them all. It's probably, if we're willing, like if you're willing to accept that Destiny 2 is an MMO game, which many people would argue that it is an MMO. It's definitely the one that leaves. And then I don't want to call it like a casual MMO, but it's the one that has the lowest barrier of entry of them all.
Because beyond that, nothing else that comes to my track to get even closer. Like I've seen, like, I don't know, like mobile MMO likes that try to lower of their bars and do have the thing like automatically. That's the best thing that I can think of. But any other type of MMO, like how do you could technically take one of these classics MMO and start to lower enough those bars and get it to a casual point, right? But you're right, you will get something closer to what Destiny is. Funnily enough. If you do that exercise.
I mean, that's kind of why I don't enjoy Destiny that much, because it lives in this, it's trying to walk this thin line of being MMO-like and having like all the MMO traps, and at the same time being super open to everyone to get into it, and very low barrier of entry friendly kind of thing.
So you will say, by the nature of the beast of the MMOs, there will never be casual for now.
Yeah, it's very hard to like if you stop playing an MMO for a couple of months,
Yeah.
Many patches will go on, and then like you'll feel like, okay, this is a game that I do not recognize anymore.
Yeah.
Not even because it looks different or anything. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, now we have these things to do, and that this is not relevant anymore. Things change, balance, stuff.
I feel that it will require a definite, like a revolutionary change into the way that we game to be possible.
It will.
Right?
It will.
But I don't
know what I'm...
Like the only thing that I think about is like, I don't know, if you have like a VR MMO when you just exist, that is everything super like instinctive to use. That would be the only thing that I think for building a proper MMO experience without like trying to not have all these barriers of entry, right?
Yeah. But you get the feeling that I'm trying to describe.
Yes.
Pretty much in an MMO, you walk away and it's like, okay, everything has changed. What am I doing? I'm new once again, and that experience is not casual friendly at all.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree, 100% with you. Yeah, absolutely agree. But yeah, the exercise is funny because you end up closer to Destiny with the tools that we have right now as a game gaming environment.
Destiny is it's kind of the natural answer to this problem.
Yeah.
It just, you as the player have to decide if that's the experience that you want. And I think that's why, for example, I cannot get into Destiny past the
beginning thing.
The power grind.
Yeah.
Because it lives in this space that it's kind of gray area for me that I just don't like.
Yeah, correct. I see why.
But it works for most people.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like Destiny 2
is a very popular game.
As faulty as it is a very popular game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Curious train of thought. Like, I did not think about Destiny 2 when I was doing these exercises in the MMO genre. But yeah, you're right. All right, and finally, our big story-driven MMO, a relic of the past. Should they adapt to the needs of fast-paced and easy-to-digest content? But isn't that what live service are? Isn't it?
I don't know. It's
an evolution of the MMO formula into a more digestible and paced content.
Yeah, I mean, those are your Fortnite, Valorant.
Yeah, isn't it?
Kind of thing that always have some new piece of content. But the way that you consume it is very fast-paced, very...
Isn't that what a live service is?
What do you mean? Because many things are live services.
Yeah, I know.
MMOs are live services.
Yeah. Man. No, I don't think that they're a relic of the past. Right?
Well, I think they are.
I think they just need to. I think they still can exist. They just need to. Like, I don't mean like. Fuck. I don't mean that. I don't mean that you can take an old MMO and make him a new. No, I mean like if you're building from the beginning an MMO with the idea of like telling this very cool story and then have this environment, you can do it so much better. Right now, with everything that we know about like design and interfaces and everything else, right?
Let me ask you this question.
All right, go ahead.
Are text-based RPGs a relic of the past?
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
you could still make a modern text-based RPG that is telling an amazing story, that is an immersive experience.
Yeah.
And design it now, like with...
I know, all right. Yeah, but
this is still a relic of the past.
Because the nature of a text-based RPG will not, like... If you wanna improve it, you will break it out of its genre.
The same thing for MMOs.
You're saying that just by the way of evolving, so you're saying that just by the way of evolving, we're breaking them out of this classic.
Yes.
That I will take. That I will take.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So are MMOs a relic of the past? Yes, probably they are.
Yeah, probably they are.
And whatever like new improvement that we need to make to them will result in the birth
a new
of a
genre or a better genre, or like
not better but new. Better, that's subjective.
Yeah, that's subjective. Like a new genre, you said, like, or evolution is genre or something like that.
Whatever, the next step on the
because
on the
like
RPG.
in an easy example is like I don't define New World as a classic story-driven MMO, but it's clearly an MMO-like game. But it has a story clearly. Like it clearly has
MMO.
A story.
It's trying to do something different.
Yeah.
Is that the direction that the genre is gonna take?
We don't know.
That's hard to tell.
Yeah. But yeah, like as the nature of evolution, it will probably break out of this.
So that's what I'm saying. Are MMOs a relic of the past?
So now the next question is like, will we not see this kind of MMOs anymore? This big adventure, big narrative MMOs, expansive worlds, and that sort of stuff. I don't think so. I think we will keep seeing them.
I mean, it's like, again, text-based RPGs still exist.
Yeah,
they're not gone.
All right, fair enough. I see your point.
Like another good example, RTS.
Yeah,
they're kind of a relic of the past. We haven't seen like a proper RTS in many years.
Correct. We are waiting for Lost Ark because it's supposed to be like the evolution with the MMO styles. But technically we'll jump into, like, technically speaking, that the fact that Lost Ark is an RTS with MMO like in raids and that sort of stuff, I will not put it into the classic RTS genre. I will put it in like MMO RTS genre, which technically will be a new genre because of what they're trying to do.
So it's kind of that point. Like, are RTS a relic of the past? Yeah. Do we still get new RTSs every now and then? Sure. And do we enjoy them for what they are and for what they offer?
Yeah.
So we'll still get MMOs? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Man. All right, Lucho, how do you do it after 2 years of doing this and to bring curious shit to discuss in this podcast?
I put a lot of effort into this.
Man, it's good. It's good. So, what can we conclude about barriers of entry in MMOs?
Lower them and you will end with Destiny 2. So
lower them and you, that's the conclusion. Lower them. Yeah, I think just like the genre itself needs to evolve, and for that, like, I don't know. I feel like we as a game industry are still very young in terms of what we have explored with the medium, and we for a long time we are trend chasers in terms of the companies that have the muscle to explore new ideas or to do interesting things. And we take a long time to jump from one genre to another. And an example, the Park Relic of the Past MMO that we're talking about is that genre is like 20 years old by now, and it's still relevant, and we're still playing, and we still see new projects of that.
RuneScape is kind of the original MMO, the one that gave the blueprint from many of the big ones.
Yeah.
RuneScape's been around forever. It's still around and kicking.
Yeah. So
it's one of the largest MMO communities out there.
Yeah. So we're kind of slow moving in that sense of finding new things to explore and to remove this kind of barriers of entry so people can enjoy more types of games, I guess.
RuneScape is 20 years old.
Yeah, there you go. So what are your final thoughts about this?
That I'm an old fart and that I will always be playing MMOs.
I will say that at some points, like there's some points about these barriers of entry that are depending, like in terms of game design, that are depending of technology and tools.
Yeah. Sure.
And that's what it is, right? There's some of these barriers of entry that we can lower till we get better technology or better ways to manipulate certain aspects of the interactive experience that we're building, right?
They are.
Yeah, so, all right. That's it for the deep dive. Now we move to our audience questions and feedback. Remember, you want to write us down. You can, if you're watching us on YouTube, leave the comment down below. If not, you can write to any of our myriad of social media accounts. So, Twitter, email, anything else?
All of them.
Don't be shy. We will appreciate you deeply if you communicate with us, right?
Yes.
Even if you don't like us. So the first question of this week is: Have any of you guys participated in a mentor program?
I mean, passively speaking, yes, but never as a mentor.
Never as a mentor. Yeah, no, me neither. Never as a mentor.
But I mean, passively, when I'm 14, we all were Sprouts. Did
you get like any meaningful interaction where you were in Sprout in 14? No, right? So the answer is no. So maybe we're...
The answer is, have I participated? Yes, I was part of it because I was in the chat.
Technically, I was part of it. We're talking about technically.
Yeah. I had the little Sprout thing for my head.
There we go. But maybe we were talking about out of our ass last episode because we never truly been in a mentor program. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah. And the second question of this week is it good that games steal systems from one another? What is the creativity? And by the way, Destiny made Warframe.
Like any creative endeavor, nothing is really purely original.
Yeah. In like more so in design, you're always stealing from somebody else.
It's not about. It's not that you're stealing from somebody else. It is impossible to completely isolate yourself and come up with something.
Correct. You're always influenced by what surrounds you.
You look at what's out there. You take inspiration in what other people are doing. That's kind of the core of any creative process.
Correct.
And any artistic process. Video games, movies, music.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just... it's everything is a copy of everything, kind of, if you want to put it that way. Yeah. It's not that it's a copy, it's just that's how the creative process works.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. That's the creative process. You are always influenced by something else. You are always taken by your surroundings, and
does Destiny always get compared to Warframe? Yes, and it will always be.
Yes,
because they are contemporary games.
Correct.
They
absolutely.
Share many similarities.
Absolutely.
They live in very similar spaces, tending to very similar needs.
Yeah.
On audiences.
Yeah. Correct.
So it's and they have very different answers to similar questions.
Yeah.
So it's a comparison that it's always interesting to bring about.
Yeah, in the term of this podcast, Warframe never strayed to like lower. They haven't been too successful in lowering their barriers of entries compared with what Destiny did. Yeah.
No, Warframe is absolutely horrible to get into.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, my friend, that's it.
That's all for this week's episode with many technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're sorry. The internet doesn't like us.
That's right. Once again, thanks for tuning into The Sweaty the Farmer and the Game Design. My name is Luch, and you can find me on Twitter at LuisGPolan.
And I'm the Lone Name Gamer. You can find me on Twitter at the Lone Name Gamer and on Twitch on twitch.tv/LoneNameGamer where I stream. Follow me on your social media to know when I'm going live. Probably gonna go stream this week. When you're hearing this, I don't know, time, space, and internet is hard for me to grasp. But I'll probably stream a couple of days in this week when you're hearing this. And next week, when you're hearing this, I'll probably be streaming a little bit of the new open world beta of New World.
Nice.
So yeah, so you can check it out with me a little bit. I'm gonna play a little bit because I don't want to burn myself out much of the experience, because I did like it and I don't want to tire myself. So I'm probably gonna have a couple of sessions and to see what new changes they bring into this new open beta and stuff like that sort of stuff. So there you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and do everything social. We love you. Leave us a comment, a like, or a dislike, anything that you want. And at the end of the day, a nice message, anything. Send us kisses, post you, I don't know, whatever, right?
Please.
We deeply appreciate it, and it's the best way that you can support the show. Thanks for coming to the Sweaty the Farmer and the Game Design. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. And did you know sardines is the name of several kinds of fish, especially oily fish? Another name for this fish is pilchard. All of those fish are quite small and are related to the herring. The Latin name of the family of this fish is Clupidae. However, the naming is not precise because, again, there's a bunch of little fish. So yeah.
These fish are typically less than 12 inches long and have elongated bodies with silver scales. They typically have no scales on their heads and only one small dorsal fin on the top of their head. Because more than 20 fish species are considered sardines, these fish weight can vary substantially.
Of course. Do you know, Lucho, that only 8% of our audience hear this piece of our podcast?
I did know that.
Yeah. So for those lovely 8% out there, how do you like our weird fun facts?
Please say that you like it.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, it's funny. It's funny. What is your favorite way to eat sardines, my friend?
By not eating them.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that.
They're too salty and fishy for me.
I like salty and fishy, but sardines in particular, I don't like that much. Like, I could eat fish anyway, all the way, shape or form, but sardines.